Hey, this is Steve in Dallas, Texas. It's Saturday morning, my friend, and you are listening to Light Talk.
Good morning. This is Stan in Gainesville, Florida, and today we are discussing what to wear, substituting equipment, and curly gel, all on Light Talk.
And this is David, coming to you from the beautiful Belmont Shore neighborhood of Long Beach, California. And if you don't already know, you are listening to Light Talk, and we are the Lumen Brothers.
Yay.
Yippee-yi, yippee-ki-yay.
Welcome, everyone, to episode 204. Wow. Guess what, Stan?
We hit 3,000 people on the Facebook page.
Well, we have hit 3,000 people, and one of my former students was the 3,000th person.
That's nepotism all over the place.
Just by chance happened.
Right.
It actually did. It was actually totally legit.
I'm just ribbing you.
Like, what's new today is we have Steve back with us.
Yes, from the frozen tundra of the southern state of Texas, the Republic.
Yes, the frozen tundra of Texas.
The deregulated Republic of Texas.
For people who didn't listen to last week's show, we had sort of an emergency. Actually, Texas had an emergency where like this cold front moved in and just sat on top of it.
The whole Arctic moved south. Like the North Pole came to Texas.
It was the polar VorTexas. The only two places on the weather map that had any sort of warm color to it was Florida and California.
Don't rub it in.
So that
it can happen here too. It can certainly happen here.
It's most certainly can. But anyway, Steve escaped, and thank God Ellen was there to help us out, and she took Steve's place that day, and we had a great show. But Steve is alive. I heard that Steve made it back. He is back, him and his family. So, Steve, why don't you tell us what it was like?
It was so cold.
How cold was it?
My dog was begging for a cup of coffee. It was so damn cold that when my wife went out to milk the cows, all she got was ice cream.
Oh, that's Texas humor.
I'm telling you, man. It got cold here.
Yeah.
It got cold, and it got so cold we actually had to empty all the food out of the freezer. We actually put it in the floor and huddled around it for warmth. I mean, it was damn cold.
That's cold, man.
Damn, that's cold.
I was lucky. I lost power for 4 days.
Wow.
And fortunately, I about day 2, I went into full panic mode and booked myself at a hotel. So I was 2 days in a hotel on Thursday, Friday. We got our power back, and it was brisk. We went from like I don't know, 8 degrees to today it's 70 outside.
Wow.
So we had
crazy.
all the seasons in a week.
Did the hotel have generator power then for to keep you warm?
I'm assuming hotels, I think hotels have to have generator power. I don't know, but there didn't seem to be a problem with hotels in town.
So you made it back. I only have one question. Did you leave Snowflake at the door when you left?
My question is, does he have water? Does the Woods house have water?
We were incredibly lucky. We did not, no pipes froze and burst, which is, I can't say that for the full neighborhood.
Right.
We were without power for 4 days. I don't think the house ever got below 41. But I mean, there are people around us who still don't have power.
Wow.
And there's still some water issues. Right now, where I am, there was not a problem, but in Dallas there was, and they were actually, when they got water back, I think yesterday maybe, water was running, and then they decided it was unsafe to drink, so they were telling you to boil your water if you had water. So I think SMU got their water back a couple days ago, and they didn't have to boil the water. They were just running. No, they were running water through the system and flushing toilets multiple times and dumping ice. And
I have another curiosity question, Steve. So if you say some people near you don't have power, is that because they're on a different provider, even though they're very close to you? They're on a different company?
No, I mean like 200 yards away, the water main broke. But at that junction, the water main did not send water to my house.
Right.
It sent water to a different. We were incredibly lucky. No damage to the house.
So tell me, what's your power plan like? Are you on one of those horrible power plans they have there where you're getting like $4,000 bills?
Yeah, variable cost.
What happens? What happens is it's an unregulated
Right.
electrical market,
Right.
and actually that's pretty good if things are going well, because you're paying about 6 cents a kiwatt,
Right.
and you might actually get down to 4 cents a kilowatt.
Right.
The problem is that when things go bad, all of a sudden that jumps up to $3 a kilowatt.
Right.
So you had people, who were paying $3,000, $4,000, $5,000, $7,000 a day for electricity. Now, as I understand it, and I'm a Bible thumping Democrat, but as I understand it, Governor Abbott, who is a Republican, has stepped up and said, no, you're not going to charge these people this exorbitant amount of money.
Yeah, they're getting the federal government to pay for it.
The reality is, if we had gone ahead and seceded from the union 2 months ago, we wouldn't have to be taking that stinking federal aid right now. Let me just say, when the federal aid came in, I think I saw the impact of that on Thursday or Friday.
Yeah.
I was driving home, and there were probably 20 military generators sitting in a parking lot of like a Hooters or something.
Yeah.
So there were like caches of generators all over town about to be distributed.
And President Biden didn't make a big deal about giving the state what it needed.
So, Steve, it's great to have you back, man. We missed you. So, before we get started, we've got some news. News today.
What happened, David? What happened?
We found out today that the Lumen Brothers and the Lumen Brothers theme song, which there is no name, but as we all know, the Luminoids perform on it, have reached into Gen Z world. We actually have Gen Z cred.
What the heck is Gen Z?
Gen Z.
Is that the zebra generation?
The zebra generation. It's the generation right now who are like between the ages of 6 and 24 or something around there. That's Gen Z. Because we discovered that we are now on TikTok.
Get out. I don't even know what TikTok is.
TikTok is this kind of cool place. If you like to be silly, you can go there and laugh.
Do I have to drive to get there?
No. It's all online.
That's the problem.
It's a lot of fun. But actually, our Lumen sister, Ann McMills, gave us a link of a woman named Lily Annabelle, and I don't know if that's her real name.
That's an alias, I bet.
Yes, I like it, though. Lily Annabelle. She is one of Philip Frank's students, and they are both Light Talk listeners. And she did a TikTok dance to the Light Talk theme song.
I saw it. It looks like she picked up moves from a lot of places. She had like the Catwoman dance from Batman.
The Catwoman dance, right?
What else did
60s.
she have?
She did the swim. She did the swim.
We could break it down. She had a lot. She packed a lot in there to only, 30 seconds?
It was great. It was really, really terrific. So, of course, this got a lot of airplay, and a lot of people are talking about it.
Does TikTok tell you how many views it gets?
I don't know. But all I know is let's go with it. That it got a lot of airplay. We are now a Gen Z band, I guess, or we are big in the Gen Z crowd, and she was fantastic.
You know what was cool about that? She put a really nice narrative to it. She starts like looking into the camera. She has her reading glasses on, it looks like, and then she starts reading a book. And I think it's Ann McMills, the assistant line designer's toolkit.
It's not.
I'm not sure.
It's not.
What is it?
It's the Gillette book.
She's reading Gillette.
It's Gillette,
so look at
right.
that. So she was sort of making a statement about, I think this is what's really cool. She was making a statement about Light Talk being an educational place, because I think it said that she has to listen to it for her class. So I think that's really, really powerful, and that she wove that into her activity she's picking up the book, she's reading the book, she's turning the pages, she's doing the dance. I love it.
It's an interpretive dance. It was
Yes,
fantastic.
It is.
And,
yes, it is.
So I've got some ideas because she was so great. I think that we need to recruit her to be the head dancer and choreographer for the new Luminettes dance group.
This is the tour that's going to the Faroe
This
Islands.
is all part of the tour, the world tour.
She could be the head choreographer,
She's the head choreographer. I haven't talked to her yet. She may not be interested.
She may not be old enough for the contract.
Wouldn't it be great? No, she's a college student.
Oh, she college? Oh,
she's one of Philip Frank's students. So she's got to be at least over 18. But the problem is we have a lot of people on this tour now. We got the Lumen Brothers. We got the Lumen Sisters.
We got the band.
We got the band, the Luminoids. We'll now have the Luminettes.
Didn't you say somebody was going to be tour manager?
You are the tour manager.
Oh, shoot, me.
You didn't get that memo.
Another new job for
You got
Stan.
another new job. You're the tour manager.
Like, I don't have enough.
We got to figure out a way to get everybody on this bus to the Faroe Islands.
No, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to talk to my colleague who's has a relative who's a private airline pilot, and we're going to take up a collection and rent a jet, and he's going to fly us over
Oh,
there.
that's a lot of money.
Oh, we have a lot of listeners. We just topped 3,000.
I think we're better off driving a bus onto one of these freighters that come into L.A. Harbor, and have it mix in with all the containers.
No, you got me all hooked on those islands where they search for the bird eggs.
That's the Faroe Islands.
I know.
Yeah, okay. Well, anyway, we're starting the tour, by the way, at LDI in the fall. So everybody come to LDI.
That's where the tour starts.
And maybe we'll do a little like Luminettes little concert.
Well, maybe
the
TikTok gal, what's her name? Lily. Lily
Just
will
call her
show
Lily.
up to
Annabelle.
LDI.
Lily Annabelle.
Well, she'll be at LDI. Maybe
Well, she'll have to. She's our choreographer.
She could perform a solo?
No, she has a group. She has to get a group together, at least 6 or 8 dancers.
Now you're giving her work. You're very good at doling out the work.
We haven't even talked to her yet. So before we put our eggs in a basket, we'll talk to her and see what happens. But that's not the end of the news, because at the end of the day, we discovered that this has gone viral.
Do we have 2 TikTok
We have 2
dances?
now.
That's viral. 2 equals viral, right?
Well, mine are viral. Maybe it's just
you need
a
to
sniffle.
add a few zeros on
the
that,
sniffle
too.
code. But Ethan Steimel, who runs the Artistic Finance podcast, good guy.
We've done,
good friend.
David, and you're next,
I haven't
buddy.
done it. I haven't done because I have nothing good to say about finances. But you don't want to take any of my suggestions about finances. But anyway, Ethan did his own interpretation. So now it is officially gone viral. So we have posted them up on the Light Talk Facebook group page if you want to see them and have a laugh. Fantastic. And we want to thank Lily and Ethan for doing this and being a part of it. It's a lot of fun. My only question, but both of them cut it off before the organ solo. And I wanted to see what interpretive dance will happen for the organ solo. Okay, so let's go ahead and start the show. And Steve has our first question.
Yes, and Jonas in South Carolina writes, I like to pre-cut my gel into frame size. That way I never have to slow down and cut from sheets at load-in. But it keeps curling up and is difficult to keep in the light. What can I do?
You got curly gel.
Well, okay, so there are 2 thoughts here.
Hair straightener.
I guess you could just let it sit out in the sun for 30 minutes. That might take care of it. But also, I think there's a bigger problem here. And I don't mean to be mean. Are you using a gel frame?
That was going to be my first question.
There's 2 things that come into my mind. You're throwing a gel frame in and throwing the gel behind it because you're just too lazy to put it in the frame. Or if you're putting it in the frame, you're not using a brad to hold it there. Those little holes in your gel frame are there for a reason. It's not options. That is, put a couple brads in there and your gel won't curl up. So I think that will probably solve your problem.
The brass fastener.
Well, I mean, Jonas has a good point. It's a lot easier to store cut gel.
Sure.
And if you've only got one frame size, who cares?
Sure.
Just cut it all up and you have nothing to do and it's ready to go.
So Zach in Virginia writes, if my high school switches to all LED fixtures, can I keep my Strand CD80 rack or do I need to upgrade my dimmers too? Well, you can keep anything you want, Zach. I don't think there's any laws about what you can and cannot keep. I think the question to focus it a little bit is how are you going to power your LEDs? Now, I haven't looked at a Strand CD80 rack in a long time, and I don't know if there's a way, but maybe Steve or David does, that you can turn your CD80 dimmers into relay switches, right? So you would provide constant power to your LED fixtures. So if you're not going to use any dimmable loads in the future, then you can probably get rid of it, or you can convert it to a switchable device like smart circuit breakers. On the other hand, don't do this. Don't plug your LEDs into dimmers. I think we've talked about that before. That's not how you control the intensity of an LED fixture, not with a dimmer. No. You just want to get straight 120 volt power into those LED fixtures from a steady power source that is not going to have its sine wave chopped up by any CD80 or any type of technology. So you can keep them for sure, or you can convert them to a power distribution system, which really wouldn't be all that expensive. But if you're going to have a system where you're going to be using some tungsten lamps and some LEDs, then maybe you want to keep those CD80s and find another way to send power to your LED fixtures. But you could upgrade. You could upgrade to a hybrid system that has a combination of dimmers and constant power supplies. There's a whole bunch. Just call SK Design and Consulting. No, I'm just kidding. That could all be handled, but I think that kind of gets to the core of your question.
Just upgrade. Zach, come on. You got a CD80 rack that your great-grandmother bought. And admittedly, it is pretty bulletproof.
It is.
But at some point, the parts just won't be there.
That's true too.
And if you're putting in all LED fixtures and you kind of said, can I, not I need to, you do it. Just upgrade, do it one time, get all new pieces of equipment and never look back. Because the next thing that's going to happen is in a year, your CD80 rack is going to fail.
Hell, I got a really easy answer to this. I'm almost positive, and this is coming from a non-electrician, but I'm almost positive that you can get modules for that CD80 rack that are non-DIMMs.
If you can, that's a good...
I'm pretty sure you can, yeah.
If you can, yeah, that would be a great way to kind of keep the body of the rack and get rid of the modules, and you may have some upgrades there. I would think that the folks at Strand could really answer some of those questions and what might be affordable. Because here's the thing, you got a lot of wire, you got a lot of copper in that rack, you got a lot of electrical sort of stuff that you might not have to deal with. We do that sometimes on renovations. We want to use that conduit, we want to use that wiring. It's sustainable, it's more of a green response. And relay modules, if they've got them to do that, good for Strand for having that. And if they do, that's a really good suggestion, David.
So Pam in Ohio writes, how do you deal with last-minute equipment substitutions? The rental shop told me the day before load-in that they need me to substitute the 12 solar frames I ordered with VL3500 spots. Oh my God, what a horrible substitution that would be.
Well, it used to be state-of-the-art, those VL3500.
Oh my God, no. I mean, first of all, you're going from LED to arc. Second of all, you're going from a fixture that is almost silent to one that is noisy as hell and doesn't fuzz out very well, has terrible focus range. If that's what they want you to do, say no. But let's talk about substitutions because believe it or not, this does occur. It occurs, unfortunately, more often than any of us would want to deal with. Usually you have time to deal with it and say, well, I may spec out a BMFL and my production electrician will say, well, they're really short on BMFLs, but they do have a bunch of clay packy, whatever. If it is comparable, I mean, if you have the same type of zoom ratios, if it has the same quality of light or close to it or the same effects, then it's really no big deal, okay? But if it's something like this, where you're going from a solar frame to a VL3500, that is a big deal because you're going to be limited in the options that you had originally required or considered when you spec'd out the solar frame. Anyway, they probably said, well, the 3500 has shutters, so that's really all this designer cares about. Not necessarily true. Especially when it comes to the 3500. What do you guys think?
Well, I think this is going to happen to everybody. Mm-hmm. I've forgotten who it was. We had some fancy Broadway designer on, and he or she was saying, I send a bid in and I want X light, and the producer calls me up and says, you're not going to get it. We have a deal with that shop and we're going to put in Y light because it's simply cheaper. So I think this is something you face all the time. You don't always get the equipment you want, so you have to be a little fast on your feet.
Yeah, and we know from the beginning what you could substitute it with. Now, Stan, I know this happens all the time in the architectural world, usually during, what phase is it called, value engineering?
Well, you primed me perfectly from my response from that perspective. So, value engineering is this term that everybody rolls their eyes. It sounds like it's a really sophisticated, cool thing that you do, but it isn't. It's
because they have engineering in there.
Yeah, to put it more bluntly, it's like cut your design, cut your program is what it really means. But it's a little bit, it's similar and different in the architectural world. So what happens is that if you're working on, let's say, what I would call a real project, we use something called master format specification. And if you go to manufacturers' websites, you can oftentimes download what they call the spec language, not the cut sheet. And master spec is what's used across all construction projects. It's a very rigid format, it's a narrative about what's going to be in the project. So on those projects, there were two documents that are considered contractual. The drafting, just like what we do in theater, is considered a contract. But the real enforceable one is the spec, which can be the size of volumes and volumes of books on everything down to the type of screw that's going to hold the window into a frame. And it gets very, very technical. And so when we write the spec, it can be written loosely or tightly. And when it's written loosely, some fly-by-night company can just come in and just say, oh, we can, and tell the project manager, hey, we can do this theatrical lighting spec for 70% less. Oh, how you can do that? Well, we have products that we can do, and boy, oh boy, you could get stuff where your reputation will be ruined forever, okay? Because that will splatter onto you when they get the junk, right? So I try to write as tight a spec as I can, meaning that there are specific things that the manufacturer has to be able to do, and at the same time, keep it open enough that there is some competition. We do pre-qualification, so we will list people who we know make decent product, and there's more than one company that makes decent products, and we sort of list them. They're essentially pre-qualified, and then we will put language in there that says other non-pre-qualified bidders must submit the following to the theater consultant so many days before bid to be considered. Now, those specifications, once they are let, in quotes, so to speak, by the client, or if it's even municipality, that language is binding. So I did have it happen once where all of a sudden, we bid, I know the bid date went by, and I get an email from the project manager, hey, we got this company out of such and such a state that they came in, they said they can do everything you have for this much less. And I said, well, let me see it, right? And they sent it, and I said, no, this is not going to meet the spec. It's junk, right? It's a problem. They swoop in at the last minute, as David is alluding to. But because I had the language that said, all bidders who are not pre-qualified must submit the following data by this date, and I could point to that, I could stop it, right? So that we do have methods by which you can sort of control that kind of Wild West situation. Now, if somehow I wasn't paying attention, or somehow it slipped by, and the project manager did it, we just did a project with drapery. Now, you would think, so we have very specific stuff we want, how the hems are sewn, the kinds of grommets, the color of the tie line, you name it. We put this out on a project that was struggling with its budget, and the project manager just gave the drapery to a person I never heard of. And I was like, oh my goodness. So I looked up their credentials, and they kind of do like the drapes in a hospital, like you have between the beds in the hospital room. Like, this is not a drapery guy. Okay, but then we did a little more research. Okay, they've done some high schools and such. And so they basically overrid me. Even though my language was pretty clear, they overrode me. And I was like, oh my God, what am I going to do here? So that bidder got the project. When the drapes came in, and I did my inspection, I had drapes that were sewn very badly. I mean, on the act curtain, you could see it. High quality Rose Brand, top stuff, but they sewed it. The sewing was not done at Rose Brand. And I took pictures of it, sent it to the client, pointed it out to the owner, and they had a little bit of mud on their face. I said, there's a reason why we pre-qualify certain people. They had to come in, pull that drape down, take it back to their city, re-sew it. So you have a little bit, because it was embarrassing. So there's a reason why we sort of, do what we do to sort of write tight specs. So like Steve says, it's going to happen to everybody. You can build, and even with the safeguards you can build in the spec writing, which we did, sometimes money drives the day, and there are a lot of people involved in getting a building done. So it's about advocacy, either for yourself or for your client or for your owners. And So yeah, you got it. It is a capitalist society, and money makes a difference, and you do your best to control it, and you probably don't win every battle.
You usually get what you pay for. Stan, what you were talking about first about writing tight specs, I learned a little trick from a mutual friend of ours who's going to remain nameless because it will get him in trouble. But he works for a major manufacturer, and he told me exactly what to do to make sure that this one light gets the bid, and that you find something about that light. That light has something special that no other competing product has. Like you say, this light must have a double radiated liquid nitrogen cooling system, right? I'm not kidding you.
No,
and you put
right.
that in the spec. You put that like in the fixture schedule, right?
Yeah.
And you put that right there, and so that no substitutions. And on substitutions,
well,
none.
Substitutions have to be approved. We have language about substitutions must be approved by the theater consultant, the architect. But your point about something special, here's one that used to get used a lot. The problem that we have with that in a private situation, you can do that all day long. A private situation, you can reject anything. In public dollars, where we work with high schools and municipalities, that would be called the sole source spec, and that has to be justified, or it has to be a really good reason. But things like this, which helps one company in our industry garner a lot of business, 24/7 service must be provided, 24/7 telephone access to technical support. That used to get written in specs, and not every company was offering that, and some were. And that specification alone could whittle down the number of people who would qualify.
Absolutely. To obviously the best ones. Although you could have some fly-by-night guy who's like lying in his bed. The phone number is his number, and you wake him up at 4 a.m. He says, "I'll call you in the morning. Thank you for the service call."
Yeah, well, that was a big issue in a certain decade where I know when I was still, I think, in the Northeast, and you'd call on a Friday after 5, and you weren't getting an answer till Monday, and sometimes that was a problem. And I think that's the beauty of capitalism, is another company recognized that weakness out there in the marketplace, and they filled that weakness, and that's just that raises all boats ultimately. So that's a good thing.
I've had to fight with consultants over things, and ultimately prevailed when the consultant really did their homework and looked, compared the 2 or 3 lights, and what happens is you run into someone, and it can be anything. It could be Mole Richardson or ETC or Strand or Clay Packey, and they just think that's the best light that's ever been made. And so they've already decided that what you're saying is bogus because they know better. And maybe my application doesn't fit their worldview. So, that was the thing. I looked at a set of cyc lights. And, I knew they wouldn't work, but I wanted to see them anyhow. And they were gorgeous. They were stunning, but they had to be 8 feet away from the cyc. And they did everything they said they were going to do at the 8-foot throw distance. But I only had 18 inches. So, but I knew getting them in there, they wouldn't work. But it was like, you can just move your cyc, or, just kill the upstage 12 feet of your stage. And
just knock down that back wall. You need more depth, just knock the wall down.
Can I say something about Steve's point? Because he raises a really good one where where he had to argue with the consultants. This is just Stan's perspective, and I really try to bring this value to every project that I do. The most important thing the consultant needs to do is listen to the client. Really,
well, I'm
listen
sure
to
also,
the client.
and defending the consultant, how many times do you sit down and your client, no villains here, but your client has no idea what in the world he or she is talking about. You have to help educate them and guide them and show them.
You are listening to Light Talk, and today, Light Talk is sponsored by...
Pip, pip, tally, bally, ho, here comes the cheeky rigor of Sheffield. The cheeky rigor of Sheffield, providers of safety gear, stagehand clothing, and underwear, now offer our friends in Texas the stay-at-home, stay-warm suit. That's right, now you don't have to fly to Cancun and risk that nasty water. Drug lords or overzealous ICE agents when you cross the border and tell them your name is Raphael. Our new stay-at-home, stay-warm suit is full-body underwear, and it's powered by a battery that keeps you toasty on the coldest days. The onboard battery is charged by wind power through a personal on-the-back windmill. That's right, working with Better Than Nothing Industries, we have adapted the Motivator backpack into the Baby It's Cold Outside windmill backpack. And our windmill is guaranteed to work in temperatures up to negative 70 degrees. If you can make it to your car, just plug it in and enjoy a warm cup of tea. That's right, our stay-at-home, stay-warm suit contains recirculating water that can be flavored with your favorite tea. It keeps you warm and hydrated on the coldest of nights. If you run out of water, just flip the water switch from clear to yellow and recirculate your own bodily fluids and add instant coffee. But what if your car battery is dead? Well, just connect the built-in jumper cables and let our backpack charging system provide 800 amps of cold cranking power that ensures your car will start in any weather. Dog frozen? No problem. Just hook Fido up too. The stay-at-home, stay-warm suit. Keep one in your car for those once in every 100-year cold snaps that seem to happen in Texas every 10 years. And at $49.99, the stay-at-home, stay-warm suit is certainly a lot cheaper than that $7,000 a day heating bill. Act now, and we will toss in our stay-warm hot hands. Just give the bag a shake, insert into our special pocketed gloves, and you will have up to 18 hours of 130 degrees of comfort. Hands not the problem? Ask about our pocketed briefs. The cheeky rigor of Sheffield. We make underwear, too.
And now, back to Light Talk.
Well, those crazy ducks tells us that it's time once again for another installment of Let's Talk About. And today's Let's Talk About is all about graduating. For graduates of theater design programs, what should be your plans for entry into the profession?
I think they should take a break until everybody's,
Back to work?
protected. Yeah.
Yeah, because this is unusual, obviously, right now, because we are in the middle of a pandemic. A lot of us are working on shows right now that we still think are going to happen, but we don't know. We really don't know because
Depends on the Brazilian and the African.
the South African strain, I'm telling you, that could be the end of all of us. But yeah, we don't know for sure. Because I know a couple of former students of mine who had to take other jobs, basically, so they could survive or to get medical insurance. I've had students who are now working in architectural companies. I have students who are working, one student I know is working as a landscape architect right now. Mm-hmm. And it's strictly because of the type of benefits they can get. Especially if you have medical issues, we all have medical issues. Let's face it.
Who doesn't?
Yeah, who doesn't? So it's hard because you don't know, should you take that chance? And then you're worried, if I don't take the chance and I don't start working and meeting people, maybe I'm dooming my career.
I don't know.
Well, you never know unless you know the people really well who are hiring you. That's a legitimate concern for some people. So I don't know. What do you guys think?
It's interesting. My son works in construction, and he's telling me that it hasn't slowed down for him, that construction is going. And I can tell you from my tiny little business that I have, all of a sudden, stuff is popping. We got another proposal yesterday. Do you want to be part of this team? We're going after this project. And so it seems that if the construction business is sort of like the market, like it based on the future, that the future seems to be looking up economically, and I would imagine that's the same is going to happen. I just want to be optimistic that there's pent up demand for what we do, both in the entertainment field and all the related ancillary fields. I would also, as I've always said, if you're a designer, you should diversify your interests, and diversification is good because markets in a capitalistic country, markets are dynamic and they're always shifting. These diversify your investments, and you should diversify your skill set.
Well, I would think a lot of students are looking at their lease on their apartment, and probably their lease isn't up until the end of July. So I think now's the time to be taking a hard look on whether you want to make that move to Las Vegas or New York or Miami or wherever, or if you want to stay in place for a while. So you need to take a look about, what the job market is, in the town you're in right now? What are your possibilities? And weigh that against the possibilities of moving into a new city and starting from ground zero. Maybe, you take a look at your budget, and your budget's fine. And you're getting in your car and you're driving to Miami and not looking backwards. But maybe you still have to save some money and get ready to make that big move. But, I think, you come up, you have a small business. So right now you come up with a plan. Very few students spend their time in college worrying about what they do after graduation. It just happens one day, and then they're out there and they're tough and they're resilient and they, they go out and they do what they want to do. But right now, you still have another kind of strike against you as we try to get herd immunity, people vaccinated. We're trying to get businesses up and running again. I was reading that MGM, I think, I'm looking at the casino, MGM thinks they'll be back up and running at 100% in December. So again, maybe July is not the time to move to Las Vegas. Maybe July is the time to hunker in place and get that job lined up when they need you in December and then make the move in November.
Yeah, I kind of agree with you, Steve. I think now's the time to be a little conservative and see how it shakes out, especially if you're moving to a place that's more expensive, has a high cost of living. You don't want to be moving to Manhattan, that's damn sure right now, until we really know what's going on.
I heard rents are really cheap in Manhattan right now. Talking
Yeah,
to someone,
but it's...
Well, what do you consider cheap?
Well, he lives there, and he was saying right now it's the cheapest he's ever seen because everybody who lives in Manhattan is moved out. They're out of the country. So he was saying right now you can get in for a song. So
what's the song? Is it cheaper than Dallas?
I don't have.
So that's the thing. I doubt it's cheaper than Dallas or cheaper than a lot of places.
I don't know.
And if you're in a town that actually is affordable, I'd say you hunker down for a while. I think you're conservative here. I don't think that you go to a place where you think you're going to be working because you never know where the opportunities are going to come.
I would also say right now, if you're a third-year student about to graduate, right now is the time to talk to those students who graduated a year before you. And if they're in New York or they're in Vegas or LA or Chicago, now is the time to call and say, do you need a roommate?
Yep.
Good point. I mean, maybe I don't know that rents are cheap in New York. But right now, let's say the rent's $1,000 a month. If I was kind of having to hold that burden by myself, if I could, get half of that from a roommate, I'd be willing to suffer a roommate until times got better again. So I think there is some way to take advantage of chaos right now.
Yeah.
The rents aren't cheaper in Southern California. I'll tell you that right now. The house right next to me is renting for $4,300 a month.
California has always been out of control in that regard.
So Steve has the last listener question of the day.
Yes, it is from Robbie in Tennessee. And Robbie writes, please settle an argument. Which is better for load-in, boots or high-quality supportive sneakers? I'm going to go out on a limb here, Robbie. Boots. Boots.
No sneakers.
I understand, and people think no one's ever going to drop that box on my foot.
Ouch.
That forklift is never going to drive over me.
Ouch.
They'll never drop that speaker on my foot.
Oh my God.
I think if you're going to be a professional stagehand, there's certain things you have to do. Invest in training, invest in quality tools, and invest in
good footwear.
and clothing that allows you to do your job without injury to yourself. Because again, going back to this freelance work, if you get injured, how long are you out of work if you break a toe? Maybe you're down for a couple months. So boots, by all means.
The thing that
not
young
a
people
supportive
have is
sneaker.
health, right? And that's your best commodity. So I have two words: work, boots.
Well, the rocking sounds of the Luminoids tells us that once again you spent another morning listening to Light Talk. You can hear our show on Spotify, iTunes, Google, YouTube, livedesignonline.com, and just about every other podcast site out there. Check out our website on lighttalk.org for future guests, and be sure to follow us on Facebook and subscribe to our podcast. That way you will not miss a second of Light Talk insanity.
No guarantee is offered regarding the accuracy of any statements or opinions made on this podcast. However,
If you decide to litigate us, the law firm Reflect, Flock, Flare, and Glare, and their paralegal, Snoot, will defend us until our retirement funds are depleted.
Light Talk is written and produced by the Lumen Brothers, coming to you from Long Beach, Gainesville, and the Antarctic in Texas.
And be sure to join us next week where we talk about more happenings in our crazy industry.
All of that and a new sponsor.
Light Talk, broadcasting questionable Lumen knowledge and humor around the world.
So we'll see you all next Saturday morning. Bye-bye from Light Talk.
Toodles.
Hasta luego.